Hello, 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 everybody. I am here with my new friend Cade, and I am so excited to bring his story to my Pontification with a Pro series. And Cade is actually currently earning a debt-free degree. And so I wanted to dig into his story. I wanted to hear things from his perspective and then share it with my Patreon community and then my debt-free degree community at large. So just a little bit, Kate, just tell us a little bit about you and what you're doing right now, and then we'll dig in.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, my name is Kade King. I work at a financial advisory office up here in Madison, Wisconsin, and I'm currently also a student at UW Green Bay. Now you're thinking, how can I be a student at Green Bay, but also be working here in Madison? And it is because I think one of the positive things that kind of came out of COVID was they have a fully online option for a finance degree now, which I'm completely utilizing and being able to kind of work in the office, make an income, and provide for not or like have a nice decent living while also putting some money away, trying to knock out any debts or any books, every all those costs as I'm kind of going while I'm also still getting that degree. So getting that degree and experience too. Yes.
Yes, 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 yes. So there are so many directions I want to go in. But the first thing, and actually the way that we met is I met your, I guess you would say your boss, your supervisor, Jamie, through a
Yep.
mutual connection. And just in the course of that conversation, she was so complimentary of you and really shared just a tiny bit of your arc, which is why I said, "Oh, will you please ask him if I can interview him?" So before we dig
Yes.
into the debt-free degree portion, and I guess it does have something to do with it. Will you talk about exactly like how you came to work for Jamie and what that looks like?
No, I would love to, and I would reiterate everything with Jamie. I think that when you're in any office setting, whenever you're working with other people, like just being able to have people that you love to go into the office with every single day is like something that I learned super quick, and I am super, super thankful that I have this opportunity to work with them. But yes, I would love to share with you kind of how that came to fruition. So, uh, I will say, like when I moved up to Green Bay, which kind of is kind of a part of the story, but when I'm at Green Bay, I decided I'm going to stick with the finance degree, and I was going in on my sophomore year, I believe, and I was like, okay, I'm about a year and a half down, and I'm like, where am I at with going towards the career that I actually am pursuing within school? Because I worked for my dad's construction company. I had mowed lawns, done the typical like right out of high school job just to try to stay in front of the college expenses. And at that point, I was like, okay, if I'm going for finance, I'm somebody who really like learns a lot in the office and actually rolling up my sleeves and doing the work
Excellent.
myself. So I was like, I'm just gonna reach out. It sounds almost a little bit weird and stuff, but I literally just reached out to a ton of different companies within the Madison area. And I was just like, oh, that's another thing I should mention is I grew up just south of Madison. So that's why in the Madison area.
Okay.
And I reached out to a ton of different companies, and I was just like, "Hey, my name's Caden King. I'm going to be a sophomore at Green Bay, and I really want to get into your office, whether that's on any level, just to gain some experience and kind of know what your day to day looks like." And as I'm sure a lot of people know, kind of the numbers game. I reach out to like 50 different places. Well, half of them I don't hear crickets, nothing from,
Yes.
and then half
Just
of that
curious,
half,
Kate, when you say reached out,
yeah.
did you email or call or both or stop by?
Both. Yep. So I
Okay.
made like my own little list. I remember it was just on
Excellent.
like a notepad like this,
Yes.
and I just wrote down and I looked them all up. I looked at their addresses, contact people, their name, or their email, and then their name. And I think if I remember correctly, the way that I did it is I shot out emails for the
Uh-huh.
first time, and then I like I remember myself at like 19 too. I was super eager. So all of a sudden they didn't respond to my email in like 5 hours. Well, let me just quick call them, and that was myself just being super like trying to get in front of people. And I remember calling and I actually called and I was like, hey, did you guys get my email? Blah, blah, blah. And like I had said, half of them don't even respond. Half of that half are like, they're maybe interested in a conversation. And then I ended up interviewing with only three companies out of like the 40 to 50 that I actually reached out to. And I interviewed with a couple of them, but because of the college planning side that Jamie focuses on and the all around planning, not just investing your money, but how do we strategically allocate your assets, your cash flow, your money coming in to really set you up to accomplish your goals. I was like, that is the way that I think of it, and that's the way I want to be. Like that's the type of financial advisor I want to be. So I thought for me, I was pretty much sold at that point, and I just wanted to get into the office on any level, and that's how we had met. I started as an intern just for a couple weeks or a couple days a week, which is part of my story too. Is I started as an unpaid intern, and to kind of supplement that, I still needed to make some money so I could be paying off my school as I went. So I worked with my dad, and they were super great. Again, great, but like can't say enough good things about Jamie. But she worked well with me in that, like, hey, I'd have to come in Tuesday, Thursday to the office, and then Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'd be with my dad doing some construction stuff, trying to make a little cash money, and then go in the office and gain some experience and some day to day on this. And then some days I'd be like, oh, my dad's got a big job, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Can I just come in Monday, Friday? Yep. Don't have a bunch
Right.
of work this week. Can I come in the office and gain more experience? Yep. And they've been really good at that. So that year was kind of it was a balancing act between the two, but it was great, and they were super good at helping me kind of navigate through that.
Wow. 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 There's so much about that I love. Love, love, love. I feel like, Kate, I could probably talk to you for the next 3 hours, but I want to try to keep this as concise as
Oh,
possible
yes.
because we want people to watch this video. So, moving on to the debt-free degree, can you tell
Mhm.
me kind of what you thought about as a high school student? Was it sort of, I'm going to go and just here's the wide array of colleges, and I'm just going to pick the one that I want? Like, what went into your thought process? And then what have you learned since? Like, what do you want to tell uh current high school students about a debt-free degree?
Yes, well, yeah, and you're talking about a long conversation. I could be here probably telling an hour just story in this, but I'll start with a shortened version of my story, kind of coming out of high school and like, choosing what colleges, what kind of made me choose. And I think I was a little bit unique. I was a big basketball player. I love playing basketball, still love playing to this day. But in my mind, like some of the biggest things were who was offering me to a spot on their team. And then, I remember there was some money involved, but not always. I never got like a full-time scholarship offer.
Hmm.
That was the one thing had opportunities to walk on, and I've had other opportunities to be on the team, but never something where it was really going to impact me money-wise. But internally, I was still thinking, where can I go for basketball? And honestly, I was thinking basketball one, and then to kind of jump forward, I ended up going to a private school within Madison.
Oh,
Why? Well, because my girlfriend was going to Madison. So my two biggest indicators were basketball and my girlfriend. Now, granted, as much as they mattered to me, I think that there was some things like on the financial side that I should have probably looked into, and those were some mistakes that I had made because after that, in the beginning, I had not even thought anything of the financials. Like, oh well, it's school. I want to go to a school that I can play basketball, and I want to go to school I can see my girlfriend, and wherever that is, like whatever school that is, doesn't matter to me. Whatever the financial cost is, and whatever's going to be the same. Little did I know it was absolutely not. I go there, and within that first semester, I remember I worked all summer with my dad, worked a ton of hours, and I was playing basketball on the side and stuff like that. But I'd really tried to make a ton of money so that way I could, push some money towards that first year. Well, I get my tab for that first semester, and I remember I literally looked at that and I was like, what that because I had saved up all like throughout high school all of this time, and I was like, I've worked for the past 4 summers, and all of that's just gone within the first semester. And I was like,
yes.
holy crap. And that is kind of what started I guess my interest in is what's a cost effective way. And that was also actually during the height of COVID. So then we all went home too, and I was just like studying about that stuff for a ton of time. And that's when I ended up transitioning to where I jumped into the middle of the story, which was at Green Bay, just because Green Bay was one
Okay.
of the cheaper 4-year and affordable degrees. Plus, I had some friends going there, so it kind of worked out on the financial side, but also the social side as well. So,
Right.
yes,
Well, because the social side is so important, and I never want to
it
discount that.
is right.
And also, the debt-free degree is also it has to be your end goal. That's I mean, if you're working with me, that's your end goal. And so
Right.
there are also all these tips, tricks, and tools that can get you there. And so one of
Yes.
the things is perhaps looking at not starting at a school that is so expensive. And
Right.
so the other, the other things are, how do you maximize that? So one way you're maximizing it is you are earning a degree and also working. And so because you're online, like you're able to have the education, you're able to have the social aspect. I imagine that you're probably still playing basketball of some sort, pickup game or something like
Right.
that.
Yep.
And then you're
Yep.
also able to get work experience. And also, I mean, honestly, for the next however long, Jamie will be on your resume as your biggest fan. I mean, whatever,
Yeah.
if you don't stay with her, then whatever thing that you do, that you can always go back to her and she will write you the most glowing reference, because what you're doing with her is amazing. Plus, I don't want to get too much in your business, but it's my understanding that of the business that you're bringing in, that once you graduate, then those are your clients. Is that right?
Yep, and that is I'm super lucky for that, and that's not always necessarily specific to everybody within the industry and what I do, but that is absolutely correct. I think that putting in that work early, once I
Mhm.
do graduate, I get licensed and stuff like that. Those I will already have done some of the work that is necessary and required for the beginning. Just getting those clients, I already kind of have that in the door, and they're setting up a scenario where I can still keep those clients, which is super, super cool
Yes.
and really unique. And I'm just really thankful for.
Yeah. So, I mean, seriously, Kate, couldn't you go back to your old high school, the one there in Madison or Madison surrounding area, and all the high schools in the
Yeah.
surrounding areas, and say, however much your first semester bill was, was it more than $50,000?
The first semester it was not, but it was still way more than I had anticipated. But
Yeah,
yes,
but there are people that are spending 50 grand a semester. It's very rare,
yes,
but they are. So
yes,
whatever that bill was, whatever was astounding, whether it was $500 and that's what blew you away, or it was $50,000 and that's what blew you away. I mean, you could walk into any high school and say that number, and then say you're going to multiply that by 8 if you get out in 4 years, or by 10 if you get out in the
yep,
average 5 years, because that's usually the highest average, and how
yep.
overwhelming that is.
Yeah, no, and it's funny that you had mentioned that. That's actually one of the things. I don't know if Jamie had mentioned this within
Yeah.
her chat with you, but we actually that was one of the things that I did. I reached out to a lot of the surrounding high schools. We have worked with in this year alone. We have
I'm
actually
a
gone to
huge pom
three
pom.
high
I got to
schools.
give Kate a pom pom for that. Yes. Reaching out to the high schools. Yes. Okay, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah, yeah, we've been into three high schools just this year alone, working on a fourth right now. And we just come in voluntarily, we come and chat to the high school students directly. And honestly, that's just because I wish I had somebody that came in and taught me that, or at least got my gears turning in that direction. Not that this is going to be super life changing for everybody, but I think it's a success even if they bring some of the information home and they go, wait, so that school that we were looking at, what's that cost? Okay, well, these people came in, and if we project that cost out for 4 years, okay, my debt would be here, and that means I'd have to make a monthly payment of over $2,000 a month if I go to the
Right.
school.
Right.
What? That's
Right.
crazy. And then maybe, and like I said, even if that changes their course and their school that they choose for the better, great. If it doesn't and it just invites conversation and more understanding,
Mhm.
that's still a win in our book. It's really
Yes.
just to get to them prepared and to have that conversation as early as possible so they know what they're getting into, and they're not essentially signing a piece of paper, a waiver of debt
Mhm.
that's going to have to be paid back in their next 30 years without even knowing it at 18. Like you making
Right.
a mistake, a potential mistake, at 18 is just something that we really want to avoid at all cost.
Yes, yes, yes. And, respectfully to you, and everyone who's 25 and under, generally our frontal lobe, where we make good decisions, is not fully developed till
That's
we're like
so,
25. And so basically these
yeah,
organizations are like, here's this piece of paper. You can go to this dream school. And also probably the loans are going to be more than what you owe. So do you want to
yep,
party? Do you want to be in the Greek life? Do you want to buy yourself a car? Like, all this is taken care of.
yep.
And you don't understand that the average debt of $75,000 is crippling. You just,
So,
you're
yeah,
not.
absolutely so.
Yeah. So my vision, 2023, my goal is to write my debt-free degree workbook and guide. And so I start that at the end of this
Yeah,
month, and hopefully we'll launch that in November. And then
very cool.
2024, my goal is to see, I mean, obviously to start this, not to complete this, to see a debt-free degree club at every middle school and high school in the nation. That's what I'm shooting for.
That
And
is so
so
cool.
how are you, like, how do you make those inroads in high schools? Is it places that already know you, or like, do you cold call them? What does that look like?
See, that's a great question. And I actually never have gone back to my hometown one.
Oh,
Just out
okay.
of like it's just a little bit further. So it's actually newer schools. And that's absolutely right. It's really hard to kind of get in the door. You want to make sure that you're not pushing a product necessarily. It really just is around that education piece.
Mhm.
And I tried a couple different ways actually. We went through the admin route where we had went to kind of like the people I don't necessarily want to call them like I think the administrator, I can't think of their exact title. We went that route first. The
Mhm.
people who check you in essentially when you go in. We hadn't had a ton of luck there. We actually went right up to the principal, and I
Yeah.
think that they tried to funnel us through. That didn't work. If any advice for people who are also looking to do similar things to you and I, the best success I have had, and I take this with a grain of salt, but it is just going right to the business wing. Like I would just go
Mm.
right to the business teachers, and I would say, "Hey,
Okay.
we'd love to come in and talk with you about whether that's general finance tips." And then with that, the general finance tips are great knowledge, but sometimes some of the most applicable conversations are just around college, just based off their age. So you get to
Mhm.
share that knowledge anyways, while still touching upon very important financial guidance as well. But that is the number one way that I have gotten it. I've just shot an email,
Excellent.
kind of like actually I got this gig, shot the email, and then if I hadn't heard back, I can give them a call saying, "Hey, my name's Caden. I shot you out an email. Did you guys get a chance to read it or see it? If not, maybe it went to junk, and I'd be happy to kind of share what I was going to try to talk about then." And then
Right.
from there, it's been super well received. So that's the way that we've got into those 3 or 4 high schools.
Beautiful, 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 beautiful. What are your top three tips that you would give? Because I actually say that my ideal, like if I need to talk about my my ideal customer is a middle school student and their parents. So that
Yep.
partnership. But
Yep.
oftentimes we're not reaching folks quite that young. Ideally, at some point we will soon.
I'm with
So
you.
let's say
1000%.
let's I think if they've already graduated high school and they're starting in August, I think it's really difficult, not impossible. But so like what would be your advice for say a ninth grader or a 10th grader?
I would say to start the process of just learning about schools and things that you're interested in, and then like learning about where you want to go and what do you see for yourself. I know that's a really tough question to ask somebody who is like 14, 15. Like I mean when I was 14, 15, I was worried about my next game. I wasn't worried about
Right.
what I wanted to do and what school I wanted to go to. But it is, I think, important the earlier those conversations are being had at what do you want to do, what are your goals, and if you like some people, they just really want to get out of town and they want to go out. Now that might be expensive, but how can we make that come to fruition and be really real with yourself about what it is you want to study, if you do want to study, and where you would want to be at. Are you somebody who's super like, I have to be close to home, otherwise it's just not going to work out? Or are you somebody who's like, you want to know what? I really like Wisconsin, but I want to get out, or wherever the case, wherever the person is. I really love my home city, my home state,
Mhm.
but I want to get out and explore. Be
Mhm.
real with that too, and then try to create a path on how you can fund it and not get yourself in a position where you regret that decision that you made when you're 18 because you kind of just fell into it and you didn't
Mhm.
properly prepare for it.
So other than like showing them the numbers, what is some messaging that you can use to just kind of let them understand?
I would say some of the messaging I always talk about is I think that this is just my personal opinion. So again, take it for what it is. I think that somebody, when you look at the numbers, people, that is a big shocker. But there is one thing I think around, like you get wrapped up a little bit in the idea of college. Like for example, if I were to go back and I could say, like, what would be the best route for me?
Mhm.
Obviously, hindsight is 2020. I'm really thankful with where I'm at now. But I think if like I was just looking numbers wise, how can I make it better? I think the best option for me would have went to a technical school, knocked out my gen eds, lived with it within home and saved all of that money. And also the tuition cost at said Texas school that I have in mind would have been like not even half as much as where I ended up going, even Green Bay, which is relatively inexpensive.
Mhm.
And then from there, I would have gotten my 2 year, use those gen eds to transfer to a different school at UW within the UW system, and then finished it out there. But I think that some of the messaging that I say is just trying to get them to understand that college is what you make it no matter where you go. It's not
Excellent.
necessarily like, oh, like you see some of, and I think schools do a really good job at branding that. They're like, oh, the college experience, blah blah blah. And I'm not saying that that's necessarily wrong, but you can absolutely have a great college experience going to a tech school and
Mhm.
making friends within there. And you want to know what? I would have went to a tech school within the Madison area. I still could have went and saw my buddies that go to UW-Madison and hung out with them on the weekends and watched the game, got a pizza with them. And like I think that the people's perception is if you don't actually go to the school, then you're just completely out of the loop and you're not going to be incorporated. That necessarily isn't always true. And sometimes it's a better financial decision to go to a different school, but then still create that time to spend with your friends so you're not missing out on those great times as well. So I
Yeah.
think that answers the question in terms of
Yes.
messaging.
Love
That's what
it.
I try to relay to them.
Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. Well, as I said, I could talk to you forever, and I've got to cut this interview short. And so I just want to say thank you for your intention to graduate debt free. Thank you for being so amazing. Thank you for sharing your wisdom with my debt free degree Patreon community. Thank you for being so intentional. Even starting with, working with Jamie, and then Jamie introduced you to me. I just appreciate all the love and financial brilliance that you put into the world, Kate. So thanks so much.
I thank you for all those kind words, and I cannot tell you, you're one of the best interviewers I've ever had. That is, you have a gift for that stuff, and I appreciate all the work that you are doing as well. And as always, if you do need anything on me or Jamie's side, and we can partner anyway, we'd be super excited to help out. You're amazing.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, everybody. We'll see y'all next time on Pontification with the Pro. Bye-bye.